Assalamu alaikum to my dear students. I welcome to all of you in this new fifth semester. Now in this semester we will read the organic chemistry. And the course name is Organic Chemistry 1 and it is fifth semester. So this Organic Chemistry 1 course comprises of 3 chapters: Nomenclature, Acid Base and Stereochemistry. So out of these 3 chapters, these 2 chapters we will discuss in the mid and will be included in mid paper, and after the mid we will discuss this stereochemistry, which will be in final papers. So now we will start our organic chemistry 1 from first chapter, which is called the nomenclature. Now in this nomenclature chapter we will discuss in detail the nomenclature of all the organic compounds, all the different functional groups of organic compounds. So the chapter nomenclature we will start with few classification of organic compounds. So you know there are different types of organic compounds, and all the organic compounds are classified into 2 main branches. So there are different types of organic compounds. All the organic compounds are divided mainly into 2 main types. One is called aliphatic compounds, and the second type is called cyclic compounds. So I think you can understand what are the aliphatic compounds. All those organic compounds which are straight chain, which are not in the form of cycle, they are called aliphatic compounds. All the open chain organic compounds, they are called aliphatic compounds. So there are 2 types of aliphatic compounds: saturated and unsaturated. So all those open chain organic compounds which have no double bond, they are only straight chain organic compounds, like this one, they are called the saturated. Like this one, in this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is a pentane, hexane, butane, so on. And all those organic compounds in which we have at least one double bond or triple bond, or more than one triple bond or double bond, they are called unsaturated organic compounds. Like this one, this is called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentene. This is the branch chain with one double bond. This is the compound with one triple bond, and so on. I think you have read earlier in classes, so it's very easy to understand. So the first type is aliphatic compounds. All those organic compounds which consist only of open chain structure, they are called aliphatic compounds. They can be saturated and unsaturated depending upon either they have double bond, triple bond, or no double or triple bond. So then the second class, which is called cyclic compounds, actually divided into 3 main classes. So first one, the cyclic compound, this one is called aromatic compounds. So what are the aromatic compounds? So for now I will give you the simple definition, and after in this semester we will discuss the original definition of aromatic compounds. So for now the simple definition is all those compounds which consist of benzene or benzene-like structures, they are called aromatic compounds. All those organic compounds which consist of either benzene or they contain benzene-like structures, they are called aromatic compounds. For example, you have this benzene structure, you have this phenol, and so on, many more. I will give you the examples of these aromatic compounds further in this semester. And the second one, cyclic compounds, this one is alicyclic compounds. Alicyclic or carbocyclic compounds. Or the second name is carbocyclic compounds. So all those cyclic organic compounds which consist only of carbon, they are called alicyclic. are carbocyclic compounds. Any means all carbon containing cyclic compounds, only carbon containing cyclic compounds. Uh, um, it is understandable that it cannot be aromatic. Other than aromatic cyclic compounds, which contains only carbon in the ring, they are called alicyclic or carbocyclic compounds. Like if you have cyclohexane, if you have cyclohexene, if you have cyclopentane, if you have cyclopropane, and so on. All these compounds which are cyclic and which contains only carbon atoms in the ring, these are called the alicyclic or carbocyclic compounds. And the third one type of the cyclic compound is heterocyclic compounds. All those organic compounds which contain at least one element other than carbon and they are cyclic, they are called heterocyclic compounds. All those cyclic organic compounds which contains at least one element other than carbon in the ring, they are called the heterocyclic compounds. For example, the heterocyclic compounds, you have pyridine. You know that in case of pyridine, you have one nitrogen. Secondly, if you have some other element like oxygen, oxidazole, and so on, we will discuss a lot of different types of heterocyclic compounds in this chapter. So now we can conclude that there are two types of organic compounds: open chain organic compounds and cyclic compounds. Open chain, if they contain either nitrogen, sulfur, still they are called the aliphatic compounds because they cannot be heterocyclic. Heterocyclic, they must be cyclic, they must have at least one element other than carbon. So there are two types of organic compounds: either they are open chain or they are cyclic. If they are open chain, they can be saturated or unsaturated depending upon the double or triple bond they have. And for cyclic compounds, we have three different types of cyclic compounds. If we have an organic compound which is cyclic and its structure is like benzene or it is a benzene, then they are called aromatic compounds like benzene, like phenol. But if all the cyclic compounds elements, they are carbon, only the chain consists of carbon, they must have hydrogen, but the chain only contains the carbon. So all the organic compounds which are cyclic and contains carbon only as an element, so they are called alicyclic or carbocyclic compounds. And third one type, if you have a cyclic ring of organic compounds in which at least you have one element other than carbon, like this one, we have one nitrogen and 5 carbons in the ring. This is called pyridine. We have one oxygen and 4 carbons. So oxidazole, oxazole, and so on, all these different compounds. So this is the main classification of organic compounds. Now we will start with the nomenclature. Okay. So my dear students, now we will discuss the classification of carbon atoms. In the all organic compounds, we will classify each carbon according to the number of other carbons attached to that carbon. The first one is the primary carbon. If the carbon in the chain is attached to only one other carbon or no carbon, then it is called primary carbon and it is denoted as 1, and that you can write that degree on this number 1. For example, in case of methane CH4, you can see that this carbon is attached to no other carbon, so this one is a primary carbon, so you can write here 1 degree. So, and in this case of ethane, you can see this carbon is further attached to only one carbon, so this one is primary, this one is also primary. So if a carbon in a chain is attached to no other carbon or only one other carbon, that carbon is called a primary carbon. Then it is the secondary carbon. If the carbon is attached to 2 other carbons in the chain, then it is called as secondary carbon. For example, you have this carbon in the center of propane. So you can see this one carbon is attached to only one carbon, so this is a primary carbon, this one is also primary. But if this carbon is attached to two carbon, other carbons, so this one is a secondary carbon. And similarly we have the tertiary carbon. If the carbon is attached to three other carbons, for example in this chain, now I am writing the line method. This is the simple structure, this is the line structure in which you use the lines to draw structure. In this line structure, every corner will show one carbon and you have to fulfill the hydrogens yourself. For example, this corner carbon must have 3 hydrogens. No need to write here. So this is a line structure. So in this case, this carbon is attached only to one carbon. So this is primary carbon. This one is a primary carbon. This carbon is attached to 2 other carbons. So it is a secondary carbon. This one is also a secondary carbon. But here you can see this carbon is attached to 3 other carbons, so this one is a tertiary carbon. And the last one is quaternary carbon. If the carbon is attached to 4 other carbons, this is called quaternary, it is written as 4, and we have written the degree upon this. So I will write one structure. This one is a structure here. So now you have to find which carbon is which classification in this compound. So because this carbon is attached to further only one carbon, we called it as primary. This carbon is attached to only one carbon, this is called primary. This carbon is attached to further 2 carbons, so it is called secondary. This carbon is attached to further 3 carbons, so it is called tertiary. This carbon is attached to 1 carbon, so it is primary. And this carbon, which has no hydrogen and is attached to 4 other carbons, which is called the quaternary carbon. So it is the classification of carbon in organic compounds. Now our next topic is rules for naming alkanes. I believe that you have understand in a good manner how to name the alkanes. So I will give you just a few hints for the naming of alkanes. As you know, for the naming of alkanes, we have to make the longest chain. So you have to select the longest chain and the chain which contains the branch. So this one is the longest chain. First thing is to select the longest chain. Then we have to give the numbering of this organic compound. So we will start numbering from that side, which will give the lowest possible number to the substituent present on the branch. So here we have a substituent. This is called an alkyl methyl substituent. So we will start numbering from here 1, 2, 3, 4. Because if we start numbering from here, it will give the name third. So now we'll write the name of this compound. So the parent name of this compound will be butane, because it has the 4 carbons in the chain. And on this chain, a methyl group is attached at second position. So we will write before the name of butane to methyl. So I will give you finally one thing. The name of organic compound consists of 2 parts. First part is called the substituent name, and the second part is the most important part, which is called the parent name. These names are according to our human names. For example, my name is Rizwan Pracha. So my first name Rizwan is my name, and the last one name Pracha is my parent name, my family name. So all the organic compounds, they must have one family parent name and the first name. The parent name is very important because you have to check these, you have to select the longest chain. The longest chain will tell you that compound is butane, ethane, propane, what is this, and this is the parent name. This will be the parent name of the compound, and the branches of that compound will give you the first name of that compound. So if you have two, for example, like these two chains, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, what will be the difference of these two chains? It has one substituent which is called a methyl. So the name of this compound will be butane, but the name of this compound will be 2-methyl butane. There will be little difference in their properties because their parent name is same, but the difference is the substituent present on the chain. So you must have to select the longest chain correctly. You have to write the last name first, and after that you have to check how many substituents are there. So you have to write the first name after writing the parent name. So start from writing the parent name and then write the substituent name. So this will be your correct name. If you have substituents more than one substituent, for example, if you have chloro compound like this one, so what happens, you have to write the name of two substituents alphabetically. For example, this chloro is on, if you start writing from here on this side, because the chloro is alphabetically first then methyl, then you have to start counting from this side, 1 2 3 4. So it will be 2-chloro 3-methyl butane. You have to write the names according to alphabetically because chloro is first alphabetically. So you have to write here 2-chloro 3-methyl butane. And must consider that any number will be separated by a hyphen from the words. No words are separated. There is nothing between the words. But if you have a number, the number will be separated by hyphen from a word. If you have two numbers, then both numbers are separated by a comma, and number and words are separated by a hyphen. So these are the techniques to write the name of the alkanes. So this is the introduction to start the naming of the alkanes.